Welcome to Resiliency Redefined. I'm your host, Robyne, and I am thrilled to share with you information about resiliency, well-being, performance, education, business, parenting, and everything in between. I'm committed to joining you each week to talk about these big ideas and bring them into action, habits, tools, strategies, tactics that allow us to finally uncover what it takes to truly be well. And I'm just so excited that you're here. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Resiliency Redefined. So today, as promised, I'm jumping in to answer a question for someone who asked me this, and I thought it was such a great question. They felt as though they were relatively consistent with their self-care when their life was pretty stable, when things were going well. And the question was, how do you stay consistent with your self-care practices when things aren't going okay? When things have gone off track, or you've kind of fallen out of stride, or when things are outside of your control. So on this episode of Resiliency Redefined, we will dive into this. And I have so many ideas around how we can answer this question. I am so glad you tuned in for this. So without further ado, let's dive in. One of the things that I often find so fascinating about human behavior is what we talk about, the knowing and doing gap. We know better, but we don't always do better. We know what could work or what should be doing or we could be thinking about, but when it comes to practice or execution, we don't necessarily follow through, which I completely understand. So I think what's helpful when we look at that knowing and doing gap, it has a lot to do with something we've talked about in earlier episodes about reinforcement. So sometimes the procrastinating or even the protesting behavior is actually more of a reinforcer than doing the thing that we know is going to help, or perhaps something that will help carry the load. So, to dive into this, my first invitation is to introduce you to a concept that I call EASE. It's an acronym. And EASE, my EASE acronym looks like this. E at the beginning of EASE stands for effort. Okay. So if I'm thinking about strategies that I want to use, if I'm not feeling 100%, if I'm not feeling very motivated, but I want to make sure I'm still able to show up and look after myself, we're going to make sure that we're simplifying. So using ease. So number one, the E is effort. How much effort do I have to put into this? And this ties into what we call the art of 100. And how the art of 100 works is first thing in the morning, when you start your day, just take a moment and acknowledge how much effort do you have to give to the world. Some mornings you might wake up and you notice, oh my gosh, I'm well rested, I'm well caffeinated, things feel pretty good. I'm at a solid 90. Great. 90% means you're going to give the world 90% of you today. Now, let's say you wake up and you're maybe not feeling very rested, you're not feeling very well resourced, and you're just really going through something pretty substantive, and your energy level for the day is like 10, like at a 10% out of a possible 100. My friends, your 100 that day will be to give 10%. So you want to simplify your day to a point where you're able to match the energy that you have to give with what is available within your system. Now, I remember sharing that with the group and they pushed back and said, how do I tell my leader that I only have, I'm only going to do 10% of my job today? Now, I appreciate that that's not necessarily very practical or sustainable or even realistic. The invitation then would be to recognize if you only have 10%, but you still have to show up for work, you want to do it in a way where perhaps you're not making big decisions. Maybe you've already simplified, for example, that you're going to get takeaway on the way home. So you don't even have to worry about picking something for dinner or deciding what you're going to eat at the end of the day. Or perhaps you're just going to go to your trusty black pants, black sweater, so you don't even have to worry about trying to put an outfit together. What you're doing is lightening the cognitive load. You're simplifying. So yes, again, you can't show up and say, I'm only going to give 10% to my job today. I appreciate that. Although I would tell you in the most gentle, kindest way, if you wake up and you only have about 10%, if you are that close to empty, my invitation is, if it is possible, and I know there's privilege embedded in this, is to proactively take a sick day. The reality, what you're going to do if you only have 10%, you're trying to show up for work, is increasing the likelihood of errors, especially if you work in anything to do with safety or service. You're really putting yourself at risk. Now, let's say you do have to show up and you do only have 10% on your effort meter. My gentle invitation is to make sure, if possible, there's someone in the space or on your team or in your group that knows that you are running on empty. And ideally, perhaps they can run a wee bit of defense for you. Perhaps they could be that person that offers, perhaps you can delegate something to, or better yet, if you're, let's say, in a meeting and that person already knows that you're not 100% and somebody asks you a question and it's super important that you get it right, they might be able to even interject and stand in front of you to be like, hey, you know what? Actually, could we talk about this right now? And yes, we'll circle back. Just giving people breathing room could be such an act of service to someone who is feeling a wee bit depleted. I know my dear friend Peter Katz and I, we have a practice where when we are, we're both off doing our own things at these different events. And sometimes I'll walk into an event and like, I know I can send a quick text message to Peter and he gets a lot of the situations that I'm in. So if I'm feeling a bit off or just not quite 100%, but I still have to deliver, sometimes simply just sending a message to Peter saying, hey, I'm going into this big event. I'm feeling a little bit off, but as we know, the show goes on, and I know that we've been able to do this before. You do it, I do it. Just having that ally, if it's not even in your immediate space, having that ally just in community makes a difference. Okay, so number one is effort. So being honest with yourself about what effort I have to be able to show up and do the thing that needs to get done today. So again, matching that is important. Now, to use that acronym, the next letter, A, for access. Okay, so again, the acronym we're using is EASE. A is for access in terms of how accessible is this type of practice, this self-care, this habit. Because, for example, if my strategy around self-care and looking after myself is built in such a way that my day has to be executed flawlessly to be able to do it consistently, there's a problem in how we've designed this. Okay, so when we think about accessibility, it's like, how available is this to me to be able to do? Is it something that I, again, even just like literally have access to? So here's an example. One of my strategies that I used to use when I was feeling a wee bit restless before bed, I would have a cup of tea and I would just kind of bring myself down. I'd have that warm drink, get into my comfy cozies, and it would really help me re-regulate. That works super well when you are at home and you have a kettle. Doesn't work so well necessarily when you are in an airport or you are traveling or you are in a hotel room. Kettles aren't often in many hotel rooms, and not least the hotel rooms that I use. And I'm not making tea in a coffee maker. I feel like some deep ancestral roots would not be okay if I ever made tea in a coffee maker. So again, the idea of using tea as a way to soothe isn't accessible for me necessarily when I am traveling, unless I happen to have a portable kettle, which I did have for a wee reason. I had it for a season, but I ended up leaving it somewhere. But apparently you can get portable kettles. It was great for the time, but again, it wasn't very sustainable for me to travel with a kettle. Okay, so when we're thinking again of this acronym of EASE, when life is hard and full and busy and we want to look after ourselves, again, E is for effort, A is for the accessibility. Is it something that's available to me? The S in EASE is for satisfied. We have to find practices. And I don't say we have to very often, but we do need to find practices that are satisfying. If all our self care is around growth, is it around like pushing through? If our self care practices are heavy lifts, like even going for a brisk 30-minute walk every day, yes, that could be super satisfying. But when you're in a wee bit of a dark season, even getting out of the front door might not be available to you. That might not be accessible to you because of the weight of the world. So we want to find simple practices that are satisfying, that don't require a lot of energy just to get us started. So ensuring that we have a practice that is satisfying, that will match the level of effort and also the access of what we're able to do. And the E in EASE is to just do something every day. Okay, so the E is for every day, just something little, just every day to be able to just keep showing up. Now, a practice that I often use when I think about the everyday, and I've shared this before on the podcast, is this idea: can I do one thing for my head, one thing for my heart, and one thing for my body each and every day. If I can do that consistently, even when things are hard or difficult or things are really outside of my control, if I can have a simple practice that does something for my head, my heart, and my body, the likelihood is not necessarily that I'm going to necessarily feel better. Sorry, I gave you two necessarily's there. Not that I'll necessarily feel better. There's the third one. It's this idea that it's a backstop from things getting worse. So sometimes the self-care practices isn't necessarily to get us out of those hard places or those difficult seasons. Sometimes the self-care that we will continue to do every day, again, with ease, is preventing things from getting worse. And I know if I miss something each day for my head and my heart and my body, I'm going to have a harder climb getting myself back to a place of okay, where I feel well resourced. Are you ready to receive? I appreciate that people are giving and doing and outputting like in such a big way right now. And it's contributing to our burnout on a significant level. And what I'm excited to tell you about on July 8th for our next iteration of our Stress Wisely Labs, this is all about learning to receive. Opening yourself up to the opportunity for recovery, for rest, for renewal, using the season of summer to receive all of the good that is out there so that way you can feel well resourced, be ready and steady for whatever comes your way. So again, the next iteration of our Stress Wisely Labs is just around the corner, and we are about filling you back up with energy, good ideas, research-informed practices that will help you make the most of the beautiful season that is summer. And we've saved you a seat. I'm looking forward to having you there. Please check out the website for all of the information and know that this is the time where you get to get that bucket filled back up so we can continue to do the good work for ourselves and for others. So July 8th, I'll see you there. I look forward to our time together. Bye for now. So, what are some examples of things that you can do each and every day that match this idea of effort, satisfying, and access, that are practical, sustainable, and most importantly, free? I am so cheesed right now about how much conversation is happening in the well-being space of things that you have to buy. Some of my favorite thinkers who I followed their careers for many years, all of a sudden now I'm seeing them with supplement lines. I'm seeing them with LED red laser masks that you're supposed to buy. And like, oh my gosh, again, I'm going to say it again because it's so important. You do not have to buy your wellness. Your wellness is something that can be accessed without a huge financial output. Okay, I digress. I am back on it. Here we go. Something for your head each day. For me, this is around clarity. Anything that I can do today to help myself have like ease of my thinking, clarity, something for my brain. That could look like a to-do list. Literally just making the invisible visible, just write down all the things that you're thinking about. It might be a worry list, right? And we've talked about this before. Write down everything that is on your head and your heart and just get it out of your noodle. Just move it through the body. And even the act of putting it somewhere sends the cue to your polyvagal nerve, your system, that you are actioning these things, even if it's just putting it on paper. So something for my head also could be learning something new, right? Finding a new strategy or a new system, or giving myself opportunity to be curious, to be able to show up in a way where I don't have to have all the solutions. I don't have to have all the answers. I can just show up as a learner. One of my favorite positions to operate from is the status of a rookie. I love being in that position where I don't have to be the expert. I don't know all the things. I love coming in that status of the underdog and just being open to learning, to growing, and just give myself permission that I don't have to have this stuff figured out. Those are types of activities that I can do for my head. Other things that I can also do for my head is sometimes it's about distraction, finding ways, which my go-to, and folks who know me quite well know that my ability to ravish books is pretty shocking. I read about one novel a day in fiction at nighttime, and it has to be a fictional book. It has to be something I cannot learn anything from. Although there are times when I realize I actually am learning from my non-learning books. That's a whole other podcast. That's probably not PG. Anyway, so the idea here, I digress. I use this as a way of just disconnecting. Now, I'm not necessarily like avoiding problem solving, doing the work. It's like at this point in the day, I have nothing really left to offer the world. I have nothing left to offer even myself other than curling up with my fiction and spending time with my Kindle. It gives me a chance to quiet the mental chatter. And there's no shame, there's no judgment in that whatsoever for people who are like, oh, it's escapism. Great. Enjoy the break. It's okay to lose yourself in literature and doesn't even matter what kind of literature, even if you're reading spicy dragon books. Okay. Those are things for your head, things for your body. I've said this again, and it's important. I keep saying it again. It's our bodies are meant to be in motion and understanding that, yeah, there'll be a season where, maybe going for that workout is going to feel great. Maybe doing that, jumping into that spin class, maybe doing some movement practices that are guided, that are a wee bit heavier. That could be super fruitful for you. But if we're thinking about what are we doing when things feel a lot and we don't have a lot of time, the movement practices, the invitation is to make them very, very simple. So this could be simply getting outside first thing in the morning before I ever look at my phone. So if I'm in a wee bit of a tizzy, if I'm feeling a little bit dysregulated, things are outside of my control, I know some of my kind of red flags and danger zones is what I refer to as that dirty digital dopamine. And I can get sucked in to these patterns of like scrolling and avoidance. So something that I know is if things aren't going great, the thing that I'm going to ensure that I don't do is put myself in a position where like scrolling is really easy because I know it's not going to end well. So getting outside first thing in the morning, even if it's literally just standing on your balcony, standing outside your front door, just to be able to get a wee bit of fresh air. It doesn't even have to be sunshine, but please, before you tether yourself to your devices or to the work or to the dues or to the situation, the whatever it is that you're going through, give yourself the gift of just stepping outside for a couple minutes. If you also happen to have puppies, which as some of you know, I do now have three puppies in the mix, being able to just go outside, take the dogs out, just take some time before you tether yourself to whatever things that you have to figure out, whatever work you have to do, or how you have to be of service, even in your own household. So, getting outside first thing in the morning. Another thing for our body, and this is what I think is overlooked, is that how we treat our bodies in terms of how we comfort our bodies. I'm a huge advocate that finding clothes for our bodies should not be like psychological warfare. I don't want you to have to go into your closet and be overwhelmed with this guilt or this shame or this judgment or this critical thinking. So, simplifying things in your closet, wearing clothes that fit you, that you feel comfortable in, is actually something that you can do each and every day for your body. And I'm also a huge advocate to keep things very simple. When you find something that you like or works for your body or feels good in your body, buy two. Like keeping things simple where you just kind of have iterations on a theme, I think is again something that we can do to just bring a wee bit of ease, something that's kind and gentle to our body. Another thing that I can do for my body each and every day, especially if I'm going through something, is getting super dialed in with my sleep, making sure that I'm going to bed earlier and ensuring that I do my best to wake up at the same time every day. Because when we can dial in our sleep hygiene, that's going to also help. Doing that for our body is extremely important. And we did two episodes on sleep not that long ago. So if you're interested in more about sleep and our body, check that out. On a wee bit of a digression, it is fascinating how many people have reached out and talked about the fact that they had a conversation with someone in their system, like their family member or a loved one, or I guess for most of us, our family members, loved ones, whatever that might be, about this a question of do you dream in color? And the people who have shown up and been like, I dream in black and white. I never even knew people dreamed in color and vice versa. Absolutely fascinating. So keep telling me about your learnings and your shares because I think they're delightful. Okay, something that we can do for our heart, something that we can do each day for our heart. It could be listening to music, a song that you love, an album that you enjoy, having a playlist that's literally just your favorites, whatever that might look like. It could be dirty 90 gangster rap, it could be anything that brings you joy. My go to, okay, one of my go tos when things feel really heavy and really kind of out of sorts is, and I've shared this before, are soundtracks. Soundtracks have this amazing story and this narrative behind it. Listening, for example, to The Greatest Showman, even if you are in the darkest, deepest mood and you hear The Greatest Showman, like seriously, I literally think it can like shift your energy so incredibly fast. Maybe it's not for you, Greatest Showman, that's cool. You don't do circus, I get it. So, whatever that album could be for you, using music for your heart. The other practice as well, and when this is kind of a go to fail safe one, is that when the world feels so unwell and everything feels topsy turvy, help somebody else. Help somebody else could be one of the greatest, gentlest things that you can do for yourself. And I can share with you a wee while ago, the family, the five of us, we were in and on a holiday. It was kind of a squeeze in holiday between school schedules and exams and travel and whatnot. And we got to spend some time in Mexico for 6 days. And I noticed I was having a wee bit of a time like re-regulating when I first got there. Like there was just lots of things that I was thinking about, and then I kind of got a little bit, I noticed that my emotions were a little bit scattered, which happens when I slow down. I know this about myself, and I know the difference of when I need to push through versus when I need to ease up. So I recognize that this is a time where I need to just ease up. And I was easing up, but I still was kind of feeling some big feelings. And then I just so happened to be with the kids, and we were in the lazy river at this beautiful space. And I noticed that there were these other little kids and they were like looking for something. And so I asked them, I'm like, hey, it looks like you're looking for something. Can I help? And this young little girl, she was 13, and she said to me she lost her cell phone in the lazy river, which I kid you not was almost like half a kilometer. Like this lazy river was substantive. And this young little girl from the UK, she had lost her phone and it was in one of those waterproof pouches. And she was so distraught. And her mom was looking. I think her other family member was looking, a sibling was looking, and she wasn't having much luck. And they even got like snorkeling masks. Like they were committed to trying to find this. Anyway, so I'm like, okay, well, we'll kind of keep an eye out for it. Like, that's what we said. And anyway, we kept going on. And I was sitting there and we were going through and we were chit chatting and just kind of taking it all in. And as that was kind of, we're going through this lazy river, I just decided that like I wanted to find this cell phone. Now I realized this wasn't my problem. It was someone else's problem, but like I just wanted to help this child find this. I went through that lazy river twice, literally like looking for this phone. I didn't know by this point if she'd even had found her phone. And a couple of times, Hunter even looked at me and goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just trying to find that kid's phone." And he's like, "Mother, like this is a massive lazy river. Where are you going to find it?" I'm like, I want to find this phone. And what was amazing, it was the first little pause in my day where I was just a wee bit distracted from trying to like navigate my own emotional landscape. And again, it was just that little bit of a distraction where I was able to kind of think about somebody else. After about an hour and a half, okay, I found the phone. And I have to tell you, when I reflect back of my 6 days in Mexico with my family, that is up there as a highlight for me, that I was able to help that little girl find her phone. And I found her phone. And then I went and I found the parent, and I said, "Hey, I found the cell phone." And then I had this moment, I'm like, gosh, I hope it's her phone. But yes, it was her phone. And the mother was so appreciative. And this little girl's sister was so excited to tell her sister that she found it. And I realized one of my ways of being able to show up, and again, I'm not suggesting that, here I am floating in a lazy river and that's like a hard day. That's not lost on me, the example I gave you. But what I do want you to hear in that share is like thinking about other people. So when things are hard, we get the spotlight on us. I get that 100%, whatever it is. Like we're very self-centered, and that's not a bad thing, right? Just think about that word, being self-centered, right? I'm focusing on me, and that's not a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with that. And every once in a while, being able to shift our focus externally can actually feel pretty good. It actually can lighten the load, so to speak. So again, being mindful of that experience is important to recognize kind of where I'm at, where can I be, where do I want to go. And the last idea I'll share with you, and clearly this has to have a part two to it because I haven't even gotten through half of the things that I wanted to tell you, is this idea: when all else fails, okay, just get to the shore, whatever that shore is for you. When you are feeling out of sorts, when you're feeling dysregulated, when the world is coming at you too much, too fast, too strong, All you need to do in that moment is get to the shore. Don't question how you fell into the water in the first place. Don't question why you are in this situation. Yet again, it's not the time for that. We're not reflecting and growing and learning when we are in the middle of something that's hard. That's the post action report that we'll do after the experience. When we're in it, my gentle invitation, my friends, is please just get to the shore, whatever that looks like. And that shore might be today a good fiction book. And if you want recommendations, ask me. I have a bazillion for you. It could be just having a bowl of soup, something so simple, or even breakfast for dinner. It doesn't have to be complicated. Maybe it's just being, maybe even looking at some old pictures, looking at maybe a birthday card your mother wrote you years ago, and just seeing her signature or her handwriting might give you a wee bit of comfort. Whatever it might be, just get to the shore. Trust that you're going to be okay. As my mother used to always say, this too shall pass. So, my friends, I hope that's got us started on this conversation. I have so many other things to share with you. So, I think we'll pick it up if hopefully that will be useful to do that. So, we will pick it up. But in the meantime, just remember ease, the effort, the access, the satisfying, and just something we bet each and every day. And I think that will set us up on a trajectory to help us get into the direction, at least of the shore or the harbor. My friends, take good care. Thanks for tuning in today. And I look forward to talking to you again next time. And keep those questions coming. Oh my goodness, we can have even though this feels like very one directional at this point, I totally get it, but please keep those questions coming. I want to be of service and I love hearing from you. Thanks for listening. Enjoy your day. Bye for now. Thank you for spending time with this podcast episode today. I hope you found something helpful in Resiliency Redefined. Please feel free to share it with somebody who you might think could benefit. Maybe there was something useful, something in particular that you think you could pay forward. Also, if you have a moment, please feel free to rate and review this podcast wherever you like to listen to your podcast. It means the world to me. And again, thanks for your time. Thank you for your interest. Take good care, and I'll see you next time.